Do you like Cops and Robbers? What about Cops and Dealers? The Stronghold, or BAC Nord, premiered at Cannes this year, and then it was snatched up by Netflix, and it's available right now. So should you be binging this French thriller? Tired of the small-time grind, three Marseille cops get a chance to bust a major drug network. But lines blur when a key informant makes a big ask. Okay, so you'll need a little bit of patience at first to get into this. We are introduced to three narcotics officers, but aren't given much on them. The story just kind of thrusts us into following them, and then we sort of get to know who they are as we go along. They're a bit volatile, but where they're working and the surroundings are also just as volatile and dangerous, so their behaviors don't feel too misplaced once we see the context. The basis for the story, which is based on real events, is that there are neighborhoods that have basically become off limits for police, left to be run by thugs, gangs, and drug dealers. And so in an effort to bring down some of the crime, our three protagonists work to apprehend the dealers. The officers operate in the gray area of the law, which enables them to then work their informants. Now this does make them sort of anti-heroes because their actions aren't always noble, but they're doing them for a seemingly noble cause. The action in this is pretty exciting. There are chases, both in cars and via foot, that go through alleyways and neighborhoods, and the film puts us right into the middle, employing some shaky cam footage, but it's not so shaky that you're going to get seasick or can't see what's going on. I liked the cinematography for much of this. The characters are framed in ways to either get us in intimately close to them, just to experience their emotions, or the scenes are then framed to show us camaraderie as we're far enough back to observe the interactions. At these points, we're truly observers, not invited to be part of the conversations, but to just look and take it all in. There are some tense standoff sequences where the three will encounter some thugs and they're both threatening violence. And these are taught with anxiety and are a bit frenetic because everybody involved is shouting over each other to stand down. There's also a decent amount of drama built into this as the cops work to formulate their plan to make a major bust. And these heightened scenes cause all kinds of friction between the players, and I think it works to engage us even more into what's happening on the screen. When the story gets us to the main climax, it gets wildly intense. I mean, it is a culmination of drama, action, and suspense as this massive operation is undertaken and then a standoff ensues. And at this point, the anxiety is palpable and I think even a bit scary. The way the film captures these sequences made me feel like I was in the middle of it. I mean, extremely concerned that all of a sudden some spark is just going to ignite the powder keg that was building and we'd have an explosion leading to just all kinds of violence. I love that the story was able to engage me in that way during this time. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat because I knew that it would only take one tiny action to set everything off. And I even found myself yelling at the TV at points, telling the characters what to do. I mean, that right there tells you how invested I'd become. But as crazy as the action is and as enthralling as those scenes were, the lack of development on most of the characters and even their relationships was a bit bothersome for me. I want to know more about the relationships between cops and informants. I expected to get some details on even relationships between the cops themselves. I think in that aspect, we did get some decent background, but there are some that feel like we know the dynamic between characters, and then when the story reaches its second climax, the information is revealed that completely illustrates how little we knew about the pair of characters' relationship. What looked chummy and solid is shown to be thin and even non-existent. And then there's the final act of the film. This is where the story falls apart and unfortunately just doesn't stick the landing. The dramatic twist is a good one, and it served as a frustrating gut punch because I just didn't expect the story to make the turn that it did, but then it feels all for naught as a resolution is not fully fleshed out. We've had a lot of buildup during the film to then have it rush the end, making it feel like so much explanation was just ignored. As engaging and intriguing as this story was, I became thoroughly disappointed by the ending. I found it to be semi-lazy and then unsatisfying. I mean, all kinds of wonderful tension is crafted by the story through the first two acts, along with some well-built, frustrating mystery. But then the story just decides to show us quick parting shots of the three leads with small sentences about what happened next in their lives. This ending took a movie that had built up a wonderful story arc to then not address any of the whys that lead to the climax. I wanted to like this more overall, and I really enjoyed the majority of it, especially the suspense and anxiety that are created throughout multiple scenarios. But the way the story chooses to end felt that it left a portion undone. Now the story is an hour and 45 minutes, so I think had they taken at least a few additional minutes to explain some of the motivations involved in that final climax, it would have made this much more enjoyable. I'm even willing to overlook a lot of the lack of character and relationship development if this had ended better. There's no sex, brief nudity, a ton of profanity, and some violence. I give The Stronghold 2.5 out of 5 couches. What have you been binging lately? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.